Welcome to the Heroes of Reality podcast, a podcast dedicated to uncovering and discovering the stories, lessons, and insights to help you be the hero of your own story. This podcast is brought to you by Reality Smash, a transformational studio that empowers purpose-driven entrepreneurs with disruptive technologies like ChatGPT and virtual reality to generate more revenue and create greater impact. Let's jump in with our host, Dylan Watkins, as he introduces today's guest.
Hey,
Yo.
Christian.
Howdy.
I'm good. How you
How are
doing?
you? Oh, well, it's a nice studio you got set up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, dude, your mic
I've
quality is
clocked in.
super
Yeah.
crisp. You're giving me ideas.
Steal away, my friend. Steal away. Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, man. It's I've clocked a lot of butts in this time in this chair, man. So it's been an evolution over time. So
Gnarly.
I was actually super fascinated with your video. I very much enjoyed it.
Which
I have
video
a.
in particular?
You said that the obsessive is the superpower. Was that the video?
Oh,
Obsessive.
did you see it on TikTok?
Yeah, I saw it on TikTok.
Okay, cool.
I'm a TikToker too, so
Nice.
it's pretty fun. I usually cover like AI, automation, that kind of jazz.
Okay.
And so I'm pretty deep. I'm actually usually the one that gets hit up by people on TikTok, and then they excitedly have conversations with me, and I'm like,
Okay.
"Hi, how you doing? Nice to have a conversation with you." So it's actually fun to be on the other side of things for once. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, man, I really dig your content. It was super cool. I had a podcast, called Heroes of Reality. Joseph
I was
Campbell.
checking it out.
You know who Joseph Campbell is?
Yeah, of course. Here, well, I'm looking at it on my bookshelf, but the Hero with a Thousand Faces was
Yeah,
like
the
the
monolith.
first book that I read.
Oh,
Wait, what am I listening to?
what do you
Oh
mean?
no, there was some weird audio on my end. It freaked me out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was like when I was coming out of when I decided to do something about this and kind of figure things out. That was the first place that I started, and then that led to Jung, and then like it kind of heavily influenced my view on things.
That's super fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So my whole podcast, there's a mission section on my podcast website, which is basically it's like to interview 1,000 modern day heroes in life, technology, and business, uncover,
Mhm.
discover the stories, and insights to inspire the listener to be the hero of their own story. So I'm at about just over 200 episodes on the podcast, trying to get to 1,000.
I mean,
Um,
200 is wild. That's a lot of women. That's like
lot,
really cool.
lot of cats. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, it's been a while, and so like I've done it. And when I find someone interesting, I go, oh, that's fucking cool, and so you were interesting to me as an interesting um uh my whole thought is like life is a video game kind of stuff. Like life.
Mhm.
I always say life is a game. It's more fun to play with your friends. And then I saw
Yes.
your whole shit, and I was just like, oh, look at this dude. This guy just took the thing into a whole new level. So I felt like a kindred spirit. So I figured I'd reach out, learn a
Mhm.
little bit about you, see if it made sense for a podcast, and then go from there. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. Where would you like to begin?
Geez. So I mean, I'm gonna keep it somewhat light because I like things for the podcast. But I mean, just a little bit about like, uh, just give me just a small synopsis of like kind of like what got you from being obsessive gamer to coaching men on how to use the gaming obsessiveness to level up themselves in life.
Yeah, so I mean, video game addiction, we can just use that phrase because we understand, I guess, what it's referring to, independent of, I guess, like how apt it is to describe what's really going on. But
Yeah.
it's kind of the story of my life, like on and off. It was always I always loved stories. There's a picture like in pre-K with a storyteller hat on, like because I started reading from a really early age. So I was always into, Harry Potter, fantastical stuff. But then my stepdad, my parents got divorced when I was 6, and my stepdad introduced me to World of Warcraft. He was a rank 13 field marshal. I don't know if you're familiar with the game, but basically he was like really sweaty.
Oh, I
This is
am.
in vanilla World of Warcraft. So
Yeah,
he
yeah.
played a little no mage, and he let me jump into a match of Arathi Basin and two-shot people with fireballs at the age of 7, and I was hooked. I was like, what the heck? And then I got back from school one day, and my mom was like, oh, we got you a subscription. I made a dwarf hunter because I wanted a pet.
Yeah.
It's just that, that became like my haven because I got to live through the story instead of kind of just watching it. So, it wasn't really an issue. But then as I started growing older, it was good in school, but kind of combative and just like didn't really like it. But also like had a huge chip on my shoulder because it was a place where I could be excellent. And so when things got hard and shit hit the fan, World of Warcraft was always there to kind of dive back into and escape into, and also, give me a sense of purpose, sense of competence, a sense of I'm going on some kind of adventure that's meaningful to me. I'm self-realizing and unwittingly living out the hero's journey, right? Which I didn't realize at the time. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that just happened in high school. I fell into kind of a funk my junior year, gamed by night, slept by day. Now it wasn't like an advanced program and stuff until like I came clean about it, got my shit in order, whatever. Got into an elite liberal arts college, studying computer science, got jaded again, escaped into World of Warcraft, shit hit the fan, whatever. Got it, and then finally got to like the promised land of, getting a tech job as a solutions architect at 22. And then COVID happens, and I finally go client facing, and I kind of look around, and I'm like, fuck, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. Like, I didn't really think this far ahead. I thought, get a good gig and life is going to sort itself out. But then I realized very quickly, like, wait, like I don't feel like any flame being stoked here. I can't see myself doing this for a few decades, working up the corporate ladder, bureaucracy, politics, building a brand within the company. Like, I want to do something to make hearts sing. And under the weight of that and really not knowing what to do about it, kind of dove back into World of Warcraft again and just collected a check, because it was nice. I was working from home. I could just play WoW in between calls until finally, I wake up like early fall, like fall of like November, October 2021. Just look in the mirror and I'm like, bro, what the fuck is going on? You're about to turn 25, and if you don't do something about this now, like you're gonna wake up when you're 30, and you might be a bit better off on paper, like living a nominally good life, but you're not going to have anything to show for it. You're going to be the same person and all these unrealized dreams and regret. And so like, fuck that. Let's figure this out once and for all. Because I'd never really taken a magnifying glass to why I play video games and what they were giving me that I wasn't getting in my life, and the things about my life that were too difficult to bear, that I didn't really know how to deal with, whether it's, emotional stuff, trauma, if you want to call it that, like everything. And that's all I did for weeks, just sit in my backyard with a journal and pen. And, initially it started as like, what am I going to do? Because I don't work here. Like, I should start a business. What should I do? Whatever. But I just kept coming back to my experiences gaming because I thought to myself, like, bro, if you spent tens of thousands of hours doing anything, I don't care if it's underwater basket weaving, there got to be some golden nuggets of wisdom that you can kind of pull from this. It's not a waste of your life. Like, why sweep it under the rug? And that's
Yeah.
something that I also didn't really vibe with when it comes to a lot of like, I guess the mainstream advice on video game addiction or whatever, because that kind of spoke. I don't know. To me, it was what I heard from that stuff was like, okay, quit gaming and then return to life as normal and get other hobbies and whatever. And I'm like, that's not me. Like that's missing the whole point. I want to recapture what I felt when I was playing WoW for 16 hours a day because that was euphoria. That was bliss. That was if I could. And then it dawned on me. I'm like, wait, if I could figure out how to recapture that, not only the feeling but the peak performance that it followed with it, but do it in an environment, in an arena where it didn't come at the expense of my life, where I didn't have to live a double life, where I could get the best of both worlds, that would be amazing. So how can I play life like WoW? And that's initially how it started, and it's since kind of transformed into kind of an understanding that life, this might sound a bit woo, but from like a metaphysical perspective, is literally it's literally a video game. Yeah, we're all born, into this game. We spawn in as our unique selves. We have these desires, not just strengths and talents, but like these desires that are planted in our hearts that we don't really ask for. You're into the stuff that you're into, whether you like it or not. And so, you read Campbell, you read Jung, and you understand, on the one hand, the hero's journey, on the other hand, I guess the path of like individuation and becoming more of who you are. And then you dig into all these, I guess, ancient, mythological texts and spiritual texts going back thousands of years, and you realize, like, holy crap, we're actually in the best game that was ever created. We're all on this incredible journey of self-discovery and coming home to ourselves, and kind of, we're each faced with this responsibility or this opportunity to either A, like live out the epic story that's almost like pre-written in a way that's kind of ever unfolding, or B, never cross the threshold, so to speak, and ignore the call to adventure, and I don't know, die miserable and regretful, I guess, or maybe land back in the game someday and do it all over again until we finally get it right, depending on who you ask. So, it started, I guess to wrap this up, it was a very long-winded answer, but it started purely as kind of like a very practical, pragmatic thing. It's kind of evolved. Obviously, that's still like the bread and butter because, it's got to be grounded, right? And, we live in a practical world. Everyone wants better health, better wealth, better relationships, better, agency and freedom in their lives and better fun, right? But also, it's like understanding, I guess, the bigger picture as well. That's kind of a synopsis.
Dude, I love it. I love it, man. It's fantastic. I have no problem just taking it in. Podcasting. This is basically a micro podcast. So that's awesome, man. And I love the transition from taking the skill because as a diehard, so like a bit of my background is like I was reckless with Halo and just endless amount of hours. And I actually got in to have a tech studio, right? I built virtual reality games. So I built a number of like VR games, small ones, things you've probably never heard of, kind of things. But I built those things. I got really into games, game design, things like that. Led hackathons and all that jazz, right? So just super fascinated with everything. And I actually had a guy on my podcast. You probably never heard of his name, Alexander Brazy. Have you heard of him? No.
Who is that?
He's known as the Socrates of game design. He helped design the warlocks on World of Warcraft.
It rung like a very faint bell. Alexander Brazies.
Yeah, Brazie. Super cool cat. I met him at some random event. He did like the mechanics for like League of Legends and did some things for Call of Duty and that stuff. So dude, just incredible. But
I recognize his face now. Yeah, I Googled
you see his face? Yeah. Cool guy. But I have him on the podcast, our World of Warcraft connection, because when I had another company back in the day, I used to have a little clan together play. So it was fun. But I tried translating those skills into being the hero of your own story, because that's basically the transition between one to the other. And so I love the concept of you turning the life into like a video game. My question for you around it is, and this is just curiosity, is in the game it's easy to a degree, right? You do hit hard things, you can lose it. How do you with the people that you're coaching or whatever it is on your side of things, how do you turn their life what I often say, like the montage of Rocky Balboa lasts 60 seconds, but it takes years for the thing, right? So how do you keep your dudes engaged as they're going through the suck of things, and it's not as pleasurable as a video game?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of it's just expectation setting, because you can bridging the gap between games and life, kind of like it involves engineering into life, I guess, all the traditionally gamified things and that type of stuff. But at the same time, there is an inescapable, if you're truly like on the hero's path, you're going to suffer, you're going to experience pain. You need all of that stuff. And so it's really just about teaching them and then guiding them in real time, how to like showing them in real time how to actually like properly integrate that stuff. And I just went through this with a client whose testimonial I uploaded, where like, especially in the first month of us working together, it was a lot of me just, learning the stuff, I guess, was really easy. And then for 30, 60 days, every time that he'd be in a funk, that something would happen, go awry, where in the past he would have turned back or responded in a less than resourceful way, is telling him, yeah, this is how you apply this right now. And doing that over and over and over and over again until eventually it's like, oh, I can see that now. A lot of this is really just cultivating awareness, in the sense of like understanding that you can approach these unavoidable life circumstances from a better context, from a different perspective, that actually allows you to, I guess, what I call like amass like spiritual XP. Because if you can't see, if you can't see. Like if you don't have that baseline level of awareness, it's almost like you're not, you can't actually learn through the lessons because they're just flying right over your head. You know what I mean? So you get met with an emotional roller coaster, you get met with an adverse experience that can be transmuted into like a massive level up for your character, if you want to call it that. And if you don't have like the right way of looking at it, combined with the willpower and I guess the accountability from someone like me to help you like actually see it through instead of chickening out, like you're not gonna grow from it. It might, if you want to even take like an EverQuest view of the things, like you might even devolve. So
Yeah,
lose XP. So I guess, concise way of answering your question is just that there's something that I guess especially like learned in a very visceral way as an entrepreneur now is just you can't outwit the game of life. You can't gamify the life part, the living out of life. You know what I mean? And I think that's a huge thing, a huge gap that like, I strive to address because like I was saying earlier, the idea of just quitting video games or overcoming video game addiction and then like living, I guess, a life on 30 miles per hour did not resonate with me or excite me whatsoever. Like I'm all about how do we squeeze every ounce of like every drop of miraculous juice from every moment of every day and truly live like treat every moment as sacred, I guess as Campbell puts it, right? And to do that, like you need to, it's they're two sides of the same coin. If you're going to live with that level of intensity and seizing life for all that it's worth and having genuinely profound experiences, the likes of which you can only, experience, I guess, when you're knee deep in a World of Warcraft addiction. Otherwise, you're going to also have to experience. It's like Jung says as well, like a tree with branches that reach to heaven has to have roots that reach to hell. So it's really just about me trying to jump on as many opportunities for like ingraining that within my clients as possible while we're working together and showing them that these aren't just cool ideas. They're actually guiding principles that you can apply practically when you're going through this shit.
yeah, that's awesome, man. That's great. It's gonna be fired up.
Cool.
One thing to say, I have a lot of quotes. Is it's very difficult to be the dungeon master and the player in the game of life. It's like super hard,
You have to
right?
be
Yeah, you have
because
to be unless you have a
yeah.
coach, right?
Well, but even then, like, I don't want people to have to rely on me, even if I work with them. And at the same
Yeah.
time as well, like I cannot put myself the way that I put it, like I guess my take on what you just said is that you're both the player and the game designer because you're the one who has to curate your environment. And that's not just an external thing, it's an internal one. It's
hmm
you're the one who's like, and goes back to awareness, right? If you don't see things in a certain way, you can't kind of give yourself XP. You don't understand that your beliefs and like the way that you see reality is literally molding like the game and your experience of it, but across a huge spectrum. You know what I mean? Of possibilities that you can play through. If that makes sense.
For
So
sure.
I need to teach uh, my clients how to be that game designer who is like, because if you think the world is cruel and terrible and unfair and cold, you're only going to see evidence to support that. If you think it's miraculous, joyful, and serendipitous and wonderful, that's going to radically change it's going to 180 your experience of the game. And no matter how much I try to act as dungeon master, I can never. Like you can only lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink, right? So I need to like ingrain these tools in the internal toolkit of like the people that I work with and show them how to mold their own experience of reality. Um, and kind of just hold them accountable to that so that when we're done working together, they can fly on their own. I don't want to have to be the one that they keep coming back to and relying on. Like that'd be a disservice to them.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You are right. You're right. There's a piece of time you can walk and then you gotta go walk away from them.
Of course.
Uh, do they like I so one I loved about it, you were very what I loved about it, it was very clean. It was very clear what your message was serving. Like, and you're like, fuck that, we're going this way. I thought, oh,
Yeah.
I loved it. I love the process that you did. Like, what do they like out of the whole thing? What do they get out of this when they walk out of this? Like, what do they get? I honestly, I saw your shit yesterday. First time ever seen you. I was like, this
Yeah.
fucking dude. I was like, dude, yes, like yes. And I just went through a thing. I was like, let's have a conversation. Let's talk.
Uh-huh.
I don't have a lot of context other than I love the messaging and I loved what you're about. So
Yeah.
like, would you like what do they get on the backside of this? Like, what do they walk? Do they walk
Yeah.
with character stats or what happens?
Wait, when you say character stats, what do you mean?
I mean, it's from my understanding, it's a 90-day program. But
Yeah.
on the backside, what's the outcome that they get? Like, what do they get from
Right.
the program?
So
Because
the so the
I just really
com
dug your message.
the
Yeah.
common denominator is, usually, and not every single person I've worked with, some kind of just need, direction or
Yeah.
guidance, or some just want to approach life like a game. You know what I mean? They know that they're not living life for all that it's worth. They want to understand what that means, or what it would mean to do that.
hmm
But usually the common denominator is gaming as an escape, video game addiction, whatever you want to call it, right? So that needs to be broken. Like step one. That's the gatekeeper. And then like I was saying, not just okay, break your video game addiction and then go back to all of your real life as it is with all the same problems that are largely the root causes driving you into video games in the first place, right? The emotions that you don't want to feel, the whispers from your soul that you're ignoring, like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
calls to more, all of that. Like you can't have one without the other. You're just setting people up for failure or like a drab life of stagnancy if you don't address the two like hand in hand. That's my perspective. So, first of all, in terms of outcomes, I focus really heavily on identifying something, at least one thing concrete that we can focus on as like a barometer, like something that will show tangible progress as a consequence of our work. So for one of my clients, Jason, he literally got an ultimatum from work while we were working together, and they were like, "Yo, you don't hit your numbers, you're out." And there's like a career transition for him at 39 years old. Really ballsy move. So it's like, okay, perfect. Now we have a medium with which to kind of evaluate the efficacy of like our work together. For my other client, Lewis, it was like, he's in a sales job. I love working with people that do like commission-based things because it's very simple. It's like your life is more, you make more money, right? Like pretty, indisputable demonstration of progress. On top of which, like he didn't really feel in a position to kind of start a family with his wife, which he has a baby due in like 2 weeks now. So
Damn.
that's cool. And so we always like number one is okay, let's find some kind of medium, some vehicle that allows us to see tangible results. Can I get you a job? Can we get a promotion? Can we like maybe start a business and start just seeing like results, or at the very least get you to a place where you're performing the inputs every single day where it's like, oh, I'm like the type of person who I need to be in order to like stick with this long term and see results. And then regarding I guess all the more qualitative stuff, it's I want to collect like I guess, or rather, if I could put together almost like a collection of anecdotes
Uh-huh.
that are shining examples of how person that I worked with responded in a way that they wouldn't have before to a situation that would have otherwise like destroyed them.
Mm.
So the thing are the same things triggering them? Or does their wife want to hang out with them more? Do they feel more connected? Do they just notice that like that the things that would have psychologically terrorized them 3 months ago are like tickling them now, like a feather? And so yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it's fun.
Yeah.
When you said, yeah. What? Yes, it pretty much. I did like so it's to me, it's just what it sounds like. It's like, hey, figure out what they want. You figure out how you make it measurable. You figure out what that looks like, and you help them
Yeah.
go get it. And there's like the hero's two journey. So it's the story of basically the holy grail external, and then the inner, which is the transformation of who they become along the way.
Right.
And so you have both
Kind of
those things.
tying them together too. I mean, the thing is like I still try to, as much as I have my perspective on like a life well lived and all that for myself, but I never tell anyone like, hey, this is the way that you should play the game. You know what I mean?
Hmm?
So, I'm all gung ho about follow your heart, excavate your purpose, live in a way that's going to unravel it over time. Like that is the most, to me, I think the most like fulfilling, I guess, way to show up to life. But, um, so like I do kind of hard on that, but I encourage people to like find it in their own way. And that might not look like oh gas no brakes for some people. Like in some people like I only brought this up because some people are kind of cool that I work with are gonna just be cool, I guess, focusing on more of like the practical, measurable, tangible stuff. Other
Yeah.
ones are gonna be much more invested in like I just want to live a life with like purpose and profound meaning, and I want to have an understanding and some clarity around like what that looks like and how to continue unfolding that beyond our work together.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You said something about inputs. You said daily inputs. Like, do you have them do like daily activities? Is there things you have them do?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it depends on what their unique goals are, and I try to I tailor like every program to the individual that I'm working with. Um, but usually, I mean, it's depending on, well, for example, like one of my clients, Joseph, he's a business consultant, and he decided that he wants to start building a body of like work outside, and a personal brand outside of his full-time salary job. And I'm like, okay, so upload TikToks every day, stuff like that, kind of straightforward and simple. But then also every day, if we're not on a call, we're texting like basically 24/7. And it might be like, okay, we had a call about this like issue that you were experiencing, some limiting belief that you had. Like tomorrow, I want you to like write about this or do this or whatever, and then get back to me on how it went, and then like continue implementing it and give me feedback every day. So short answer, yes. Yeah. Daily,
Okay.
like there's always something that they're doing, that I'm asking them to do and then holding them accountable to.
Well, that's awesome. Whenever you hear that, I hear I'm a huge fan of gamification for good and how to apply it in different ways. And so, like as I did build, have built games, I have done a lot of them for good, which are weird. And so I'm always like when I hear inputs, my mind just goes like XP points. There's progress. There's markers. Like
Yeah.
I'm always like tracking it from that thing because I think it's really interesting because it's so much like games are so much more simpler, right? You get immediate feedback. You know what's going on. You do something you're not supposed to, right? You can
Sure.
pivot and stuff.
Well,
So
yeah. And that's honestly, might be like some of the biggest things to address when we talk about bridging the gap between games and life is just the inherent uncertainty, the inherent uh you have to learn how to be self-reliant. If you haven't read Self-Reliance by Emerson, wonderful essay, like you really need to, the biggest ROI you're going to get is from learning how to like sit in the unknown and dance in it and decide like, okay, you have to be a scientist. You have to experiment. You have to shoot shots. You can't just follow the quests. You know what I mean? That one's laid out for you. And you have to be cool with that timeline of success or getting an ROI on your inputs being completely random, unpredictable, sporadic. Nothing could be happening and it happens all at once. You could experience a massive rock bottom and then you get catapulted to the top. And so we try to focus a lot on, the stuff that we can control, which is who are you being every single day, internal and external inputs kind of. It's like, are you managing your thoughts better and your emotions better? Are you, even if you haven't built a consulting company, for example, one of my clients, it's like, are you uploading content daily? Are you thinking about your brand? Are you doing these things so that you can at the very least become like the type of player who's already playing at the level at which like the realization of your goals become inevitable? And that's a matter of external inputs, what your creative inputs, but also like the way that you view yourself, for example.
yeah.
The way that you walk, the way that you talk. So
Where do you live, by the way?
I'm in
Curious.
Miami, Florida.
Miami, Florida. Okay.
Yeah, I was born and raised here.
Got it. Long Beach, California.
Nice.
Opposite sides of the spectrum. So
Yeah.
okay, no. Both close to the beach, but not the same beach. So I was curious,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, dude, like what you do, I think is super fucking cool. I think there's so much video game addictive. What I think it's fucking fun for me is recognizing having the same problem, but going about solutions differently. Like me, I
Yeah.
did a podcast. I make games for good, so I use AI to help kids do this, that, and the other. But I
Mhm.
like the fact that so I do a lot of that kind of stuff. But I love the fact that you were so like you nailed like that one video really spoke to me. You wrote out a whole bunch of shit. Like I don't know how long it took you to put together that manifesto
Yeah.
of the obsessive. But
Oh,
I thought it
well,
was hmm.
you
Yeah,
thought
go
it was
ahead.
what?
I thought it was fantastic, man. It was like I was like, who the fuck is this guy? And it
Yeah.
made me lean in and like, I never like go and click on a dude's link. Like I think this is the first time I've done this. So
Wow.
but I
Thank
was
you.
fascinated. So talk me about the document. Talk me about that thing. What happened
Dude,
where did that
that
come from?
that was just a straight download. And I guess we're talking about Campbell and Jung. I mean, they talk about like the collective unconscious and how,
For sure.
none of your ideas are really yours, right? You're only ever kind of a conduit for something else that's kind of acting through you. And I definitely have leaned into that, which relieves a lot of pressure too. I straight up just woke up from a nap. I had a vague idea of like content that I wanted to record on people that are like, ADHD, neurodivergent, obsessive, all or nothing. It's like, and how those people kind of just like that personality lends itself effortlessly to video games, and how if you look, and this is really hard to understand or to know about that it's a thing if you're not in the right circles of people. Like the fact that a lot of the people who are the highest performers in the world, they're this exact type of person. I just spoke with someone my age. I turned 27 in a week and a half, and I spoke with a 26-year-old a few weeks ago who runs his own company with his uncle. They're making like 7 or 8 figures a year, and he's a super high performer. He's not, he's not a dork per se. He's an all-state wrestler. He's got a girlfriend. He's a good-looking, charismatic guy. But whenever he's not going hard at work, he's a top 100 mythic raider in World of Warcraft. It's the same thing expressing itself in two different contexts. My stepdad, when I was growing up, I told you was ranked 13, hardcore raider in WoW, grew up Taekwondo champion, Armed Forces champion, ran a school, corporate machine. It's like, so there's this innate impulse and drive within, it's almost like a delineation that you can derive between what you call like the hunter and the farmer. And so whatever, I sat down on my balcony right there with my journal and was just started kind of like taking notes or bullet point on what I thought this would be. And then to help myself understand it, you said you saw like the carousel text version, right?
I saw the TikTok. No, it wasn't carousel text. I saw the TikTok version of you recording, and you had a notebook, and you're like drawing, and you're like, "Hey, man, like this is what's going on."
So that was like I was just drawing visualizations to help myself work through the idea. And initially, I was gonna do green screen with some screenshots of some tweets that I felt like were great springboards for this. But I just kept rolling with it, and it just freaking came to me. And then as soon as like I just kept doing it, and as soon as I like kind of woke up from that, I was like, oh, this is actually really good, and it's totally coherent too. And then I just sat down and recorded it before I snapped out of the trance.
That is so cool, man.
Yeah.
As I was leaned in, I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
So it was, very compelling to me. Very compelling. And I think you're 100% on track.
Thank you.
I'm like, just because of like what I do and the world I'm in the podcast and then tech space, I have conversations with like a lot of coaches, like just because they're transforming the world in different ways, shapes, and forms. And so like you have like an energy, but you also have this fucking lean in, fuck, let's go this way,
Yeah,
and
dude.
it's very cool, man. It's very cool. I had a guy in my podcast who just like I was around him. I got he's Superhuman Fathers is the name of his coaching company, and he's just this big jacked King Kong looking savage. He's like, hey, what's up? And he's like in the world built for comfort, a man who needs none has an unfair advantage. And I was just like, all right. And I was like, oh, I was like, wow. Like there's this energy that I think with coaching or coaches, there's a mission. I can feel your mission. You know what I'm saying? I can feel the rally cry, and I think it's super fucking cool.
I love that phrase, rally cry. And it's not to interject, but
right.
to interject, I mean, like this really is just kind of me like building something around the way I see the world, and like my own journey, and kind of just passing everything along as I go and as I continue to learn things and like develop that. Like it's just like, well, I already got this for myself. Like I'm sure someone else can use it. Here you go. When you said like rally cry, there's a really powerful buff in World of Warcraft called Rallying Cry of the Dragon Slayer.
Yeah.
And if you were sweaty like me, then you'd always you'd always log off in Stormwind and get on an alt until someone drops it so you can get your world bust before raid. But it's just like it's stuff like that that I think really captures I'm trying to build a mythos essentially. Like not trying, that's what I'm doing, right? It's like we have this pantheon of like superheroes in video games and we're expressing, I think, this subconscious impulse and this yearning for like a heroically lived life. But it's the way that the world's set up doesn't always make that exactly great. And sometimes it's like or easy or accessible. And we arguably live in like a pretty watered down, spiritually mundane environment a lot of the time. We're like, where's the beautiful architecture? Where's the beautiful music? Where's like the soul riveting, art and stuff like that, and just like way of seeing the world. Well, video games are kind of like the last bastion where a lot of things are finding that. And it's
Mm.
stuff like the rallying cry of the Dragon Slayer, I think, that captures. Um, this might just be me picking, splitting blades of grass here, but something about that struck me
Yeah.
because
No.
that's really like what this is about. It's not just about like it's beyond, I guess, gamifying things from a performance perspective, tracking things, whatever. It's like really capturing the soul of like being on a quest like you are in World of Warcraft and like living that out in the real world.
Yeah, man. The often so like often I say that we live in three realities. We live in our internal reality, our mindset, our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, that internal narrative. We live in an external environment, which is our physical environment, or if you have a VR headset, the virtual environment, right? But then we also live in a social reality. It's one that me and you are currently co-creating, basically having this kind of this entity of one thing. And so what's
Yeah.
happening is me and you are like washing hands right now in the terms of the co-creation of the experience, right? So like you triggered me, and I talk about rally cry. Rally cry triggers you for the experience, and we're basically having this co-created experience together, which is super fun for me. And so I have a tendency that I have to, from doing way too many podcasts, I have this experience with you, but I also have the podcaster pullback where I'm
Mm,
listening to this as an experience. And one of the challenges is whenever you have like a part of the challenges is when you have a really good communication, right? And we're on the flow of things, is that there's something that happens when the mic goes on, right? That people like you ever notice when
of
you turn on
course.
the camera, sometimes you freeze up. I talk about it on my TikTok about the golden Buddha from Joseph Campbell. Revealing yourself if you know the story, but
Mhm.
essentially it's really hard to get this naturally organic. We're like just two
Oh,
two
dude,
hmm,
as soon as you look at it, it evaporates. You have to like you can't try to put a spotlight on it. You know what I mean?
you can't it's like it's trying to wake up in the middle of the dream. You pop the bubble, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the same point, and that's what I'm saying is that we're the thing about this dialogue. It's really fun because we both smell there's this essence of a game that is beautiful and unique and sublime and wonderful, and that we lose ourselves in that reality. But we know
Mhm.
that the greatest game you play is life. But in life, it's uncertain. You don't know if you can. You don't know what the boss is. You don't. There's not a lot of clarity.
Yeah.
It makes it unclear. But it's also so much more rewarding. And it's like, and the one thing I have mad respect for you is I went down. I mean, I went down my path with podcasting and games for good, and I build technology with coaching stuff and things, right? But you fucking went for it, man. You just like out like right in. Like what I liked it was so like tight as a communication as straight through the thing, man. I was like I respect the fucking titanium balls you got over there to just go from hardcore gamer to like let's go this way. Come on, man, we're doing it. And so
Yeah.
I've a lot of excitement around that because there's you need that momentum to break through the reality to be able to carve your own path. Do you know what I'm saying? You've got to
Yeah.
come with that enthusiasm. Otherwise, and then everything else tries to pull you back. The someone had a shirt at the gym today. It was like on the back of the shirt, it says your fear is what's stopping you from becoming who you want to be or something like
Yeah.
that, you know?
The
So
cave. Well, thank you first of all. I really
yeah,
appreciate it. But
sure,
like
totally.
the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. We could sit here just quoting Campbell and like a thousand times over. But dude, I just decided that I don't know. It's part of that obsessive personality. It's I
Yeah.
have a low tolerance for doing things that I don't want to fucking do. And that's the whole point of like the mission is just waking people up to the fact that you don't need to per se. I mean, it's not to say that you're not going to do tedious, grindy things in real life sometimes.
Yeah.
Like,
You got to farm.
of course. But when it's within the context of something that's beautiful, I love that word because that's essentially what this is. It's capturing the beauty of life seen a certain way and then understanding how to handle the things about it that we don't have a great relationship to that are actually like what make life the game a game like a spiritual MMORPG in the first place, the adversity, the uncertainty, etc. But like um, you know, there's sometimes like there's difference, and I've been really digging into this lately, and I don't know if you're interested. I think the best authority on this type of a worldview is someone called Brute de Force on Twitter. I don't know if you're on Twitter a lot. Just
No.
full disclosure, dude's like he's a what is he's like a professional sports bettor, gambler, or whatever, but he's really just like a modern day philosopher more than anything. And he's influenced my beliefs a lot, like heavily. And
Mhm.
he draws this distinction between like vitality and health. And I've talked about in my content sometimes how arguably the healthiest times in my life, and I'm kind of going through this right now, where like I went through a massive bulk, and then I haven't worked out in the last 3 weeks, and I've mainly been subsisting on Red Bull and like a meal or two a day because I've been working my butt off. But I've
Yeah.
felt a million times better than I did at the beginning of the month. And some of the healthiest moments in my life, or periods of my life, were where I was playing WoW for 6 hours a day, pulling consecutive all-nighters, Uber Eatsing like 2 big gulp cold brews from Wawa, and just going balls to the wall hard in the paint. Um, Hitting level 60 in like 6 days, but having a blast and farming my and then right from that into okay, hit level 60 to farm pre-raid bis. Time to get my professions up. We're hitting raid. Like it's just when you're in the thick of that and you're in that, like you said, that immersive experience, like you're connected to source, dude. Like you're tapped in. And times that's arguably felt and been healthier than sometimes in my life where, I'm also super into I guess the extreme personality is like optimizing other things as well. Like, when I do something, I want to do it all the way. So when I do health, it would be, I can go to sleep at 8 or 9 p.m. Red light glasses, supplements, ancestral diet, pasture raised, grass fed, raw milk, the whole 9 yards and then some. And still felt sapped of something because I didn't have a mission, or I wasn't honoring my mission the way that I could have been. So it's like that. I wanted to share that because I feel like it's really illustrative of I guess something that I see in terms of like this transition from gaming to real life that I'm trying to steward people on. That I think some people don't because it's like, guys, you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and also I think we're being a bit timid in terms of like the extremes that we're comfortable exploring in real life. But then like you entirely miss the point because vitality is not health. And sometimes the healthiest thing to do for your soul is to work 16 hours a day on your business, is to, go to the extreme with what you're doing with your art, right? With your life. Your life is a form of art. So it's like, rip the band-aid off and full send it and play it the way that you do your favorite games. And like that's exactly what you're missing that you're just too scared to pull trig on.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's like what's the definition of health, right? It's not about having everything perfectly in balance, right? But if you get lost in that mission, I think you're onto something. We talk about are you doing things to do things because you think that's the things you should be doing? Or are you doing
Right.
to do the things because you're lit on fire for the thing and you don't
Right.
give a fuck what that should do, could do. Your balls to the wall, go for
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Are
yeah.
you checking boxes? Or are you making yourself into like this show pony of health or whatever else? But like, what are you going to
Show
use
on.
that for, brother? Like, like it's
Yeah.
like the greatest. This is why the kind of North Star of what I do with people again is tap. Like your heart is way smarter than your brain. It kind of already knows everything that you could ever want. You really just have to reconnect with it and with tuition and grow more comfortable listening to it through, as scary as it gets sometimes. And when you're living like in full alignment with that, um, there's not like nothing, one of my favorite quotes as well. This is kind of like a little metaphysical handbook. It's called Reality Transurfing in 78 Days. It's a version of the book Reality Transurfing, which is like 700 pages long, but this is more digestible. I can just open it and start reading it throughout the day, right? So
I'm not familiar. Reality Transurfing?
Reality Transurfing by this Russian dude called Vadim Zaland. So in this book, he says that one of my favorite lines is charisma is the unity of heart and mind. And the way that like I've kind of witnessed this in my own life is again, even if I'm more jacked or whatever, I have the nice job. It's like I'm not living true to myself and being like unapologetic, authentic, and like grabbing life by the nuts as well, and like living full throttle. Then I just like it's almost like my aura shrinks. It's like some spiritual quality about you, your charisma like constricts versus like even if, I've lost like 5 or 7 pounds in the last few weeks, but I feel tapped in to what I'm supposed to be doing. And like I just hear it in the way that I talk, I hear it in the way that I show up to social events and like other people, etc. Like I feel more within myself, like more like centered, more grounded, and just more expansive. And I think that really, I guess, is another angle from which kind of capture what I'm trying to point at here, or allude to or hint at, which is like the quote happiest you'll be is really just when you're living with your mind and your heart as unified and as aligned and as coherent as possible, whatever that means to you. Um, so charisma is kind of a good measuring stick for that, I think.
Well, charisma to a degree you're talking about congruency, right?
Yeah, but
You're,
I also just mean like that it's magnetism. You know what I mean? It's like when you're out
oh, I see what you're saying.
when things are just flowing effortlessly, things are clicking, serendipity's happening. You're not thinking about what should I say, what should I do? Like it's just a very concrete way of kind of measuring, like I think how you're showing up to your life. It's a good test to perform. But yeah, like it's congruency is exactly it. You know what I mean? Are you living true to who you are? And the trap that I guess I fell into because I didn't know any better, I didn't have anyone to tell me otherwise, was thinking that I had to like the only alternative that I saw to gaming was not doing that. It was living the right way. And
Yeah.
so I was just set up for failure. And I think a lot of other people are too, because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know that there's some dude um, for example, like I know there's some entrepreneur out there who like lives mostly off of like Marlboros and Red Bulls and like is living completely counter to the way that he was told to live growing up, but is making a ton of money, like and living a wonderful, beautiful, amazing life because he's tapped into his heart and to who he is as an obsessive. And I'm not saying you need to live like that and or whatever. But like it's just about it's like whoa, there's more to life than this. Like I don't need it's not a binary between like video games or like self-medication drudgery and like fighting against yourself. I think honestly, if this whole entrepreneurial coaching journey has shown me anything, it's really lit a candle to how like absolutely insanely I was living before, where I look at that and I was just kind of like, dude, how was I dragging myself and like forcing myself through that? It's
How would
really just like masochistic in a way.
It's interesting. So how would you like what's your personal like holy grail then? What's your holy grail with all this?
Um, I don't know if there's like bad juju around like explicitly like saying, I guess, like the pinnacle of your goals. To be fair, like I would say that the long-term vision is you know, creating the ultimate player's guide to the game of life. Not in a prescriptive way, but in a universally applicable way, where again, it's like, how do you figure out how do you live in a way that allows you to live true to your heart and become who you are? And what are the universal principles, practical, metaphysical, etc., that we can kind of unify from every single discipline and area of like human wisdom across all cultures, across all epochs into like the ultimate holy grail of like a life quote well lived, but also understanding that it's not something that you can like rationally like we're not trying to solve the game here because you can't. And you could I could give you this player's guide and it would still not be a substitute for you, for example, getting your heart blown up into a million pieces, or I don't know, like going through a really traumatic experience, a dark night of the soul, whatever. Like it's more so a guide for, I guess, like rolling with the punches and living through like these necessary inevitable experiences, but in the most effective, resourceful way possible, like empowering way possible. Because I think for the vast majority of people, like they break them and they never kind of get back on the wagon and really see um like who they are. Because the hero's journey is tough. So I guess that's like number one. It's just ultimate player's guide. Help as many men as possible become the heroes of their own epic real life stories. Um, and obviously that could shoot off into all kinds of different, manifestations. I don't know, SaaS or VR. No idea, but that's kind of like the ultimate mission, and what form that takes, and I can't say, but that's also the fun part, right?
Sure.
I just know that I have like a direction, and the rest is in God's hands. Like I don't want to know. You know what I mean? Like
For
that's
sure.
yeah, and I couldn't
Hey,
possibly if I tried.
absolutely. Yeah. It's impossible to predict the future. I was curious. One last question on this one is, what's the dragon for you? What's the thing that's the
Hmm.
dragon you're facing on your journey?
Yeah, that's an interesting. And do you believe in synchronicities,
Hmm.
meaningful coincidences?
I do.
Yeah, about. I mean, technically today is the first day of the year of the dragon. I don't know if you knew that. So yeah, it's pretty
No, but now I
intriguing.
do.
Yeah. Um, what is my dragon? Could you like explain that a bit? What exactly do you mean?
So every hero, modern day hero, or anybody is on a quest,
Yeah,
right? And as you go through the journey, you face, threshold guardians, so forth and so on. And then
yeah.
along towards the end, you have a dragon, something that's so big to overface that you don't know if you're big enough to overcome it, and you
Hmm.
might die in the attempt to achieve your goal. So for you, what if on the mission of what you're making the ultimate player's game to the guide of life, uh, uh, the ultimate player's guide to the game of life,
Yeah.
how would you what is the dragon you feel you face? And I'll give you two ways to answer this.
Okay.
What is the dragon that you might be facing on this one? And what is the dragon part B that the people that you lead, coach, and guide are facing?
Yeah, let's touch on both of those, man. Let's start with the second one because I guess
Sure.
that it partially answers the first one too, and then I
Sure.
can dive deeper on the first one. So, especially, after this kind of evolved beyond just a practical mission of, hey, let's play life like a game so that we make more money, we have better relationships, whatever. Like when it evolved past that, as I dug into all kinds of different influences that kind of appeared in a very uncanny way while on this. It's like what I think this is another Campbell, but it's like when the student's ready to master appears. Like I just started asking certain questions and the answers started appearing like really quickly. And I guess I would say that the thing that I really help my clients understand, I guess, and overcome their dragon is understanding that life is largely a battle between love and fear, you know, and every that manifests really obviously in people with dreams that they forgot about and things that they didn't say and things they didn't do and all of that, but really like every day it permeates everything, your interaction with every single person you come across, with your family, with your in your relationships, like your romantic relationship or whatever, your children. It's like every day is really just an opportunity to live more from your heart, and kind of shake off like the influence of the doubts and like the fears and the stuff that prevents you from showing up with the utmost amount of vitality and zest for life and authenticity, like unbridled you-ness, and it really is like the cure all to everything, because I think a lot of life is like just realizing that whatever you're afraid of isn't actually that bad. And like I don't want my clients, same that I don't want myself, to arrive at the end of my life and realize that, like, dude, why didn't we go 1,000 times harder? And not harder from a productivity perspective necessarily, but in terms of just like the courage that we showed up to our mission with and our work with, and the risks that we didn't take, and the dates that we didn't ask the girls on, and like the adventures we didn't go on, and all of that. And I don't really like I wouldn't even say this is conspiratorial necessarily, but I think it really is just kind of like if we understand life as a spiritual MMORPG, so to speak, this spiritual journey. And when I say spiritual, I don't mean granola and crystals and woo woo. I just mean like this is like it really is like a schoolyard where you're born into certain circumstances that you didn't ask for, and you end up accumulating a lot of like baggage and personal issues that end up becoming like the portals to your development into who you're supposed to be. Um, and if have you read a book called Power versus Force by Dr. David R. Hawkins? There's nothing like conspiratorial about this. but if we look at life as like a spiritual MMORPG, and everyone is here in this kind of like schoolyard where we each accumulate all this baggage and trauma and stuff, and stuff that just holds us back, and lessons that we need to learn through like living life. And I just think it's all kind of, it's like what we were saying earlier, it's all kind of wrapped up together, where like making money by serving people isn't separate from like living righteously, isn't separate from working on yourself, isn't like, it's all kind of part of the same hero's journey. I mentioned this book while we were cut off called Power versus Force by this dude called Dr. David R. Hawkins. You know, he
Yep.
talks about the map of consciousness. And so like when you look at it that way, like I guess the point isn't to become enlightened. Like all we shouldn't all like become monks and stuff within this lifetime, but it's just understanding, I guess, that context. It's inseparable. Like it's not it's inseparable from life. Like life is inherently spiritual in that sense, where we're each grappling with shame, guilt, apathy, you know, fear, pride, like desire, and all these things. And so it is, and you see how a lot of these emotions or levels of consciousness, um, like largely direct people's lives, you know, to and so this is not me either saying that like we should, you know, tell people how to live again. It's more just like save yourself, save the world. That's literally what Dr. Hawkins says. He says that for every when you raise your own level of consciousness, like it has an effect on, I guess, the cumulative like collective consciousness of the world. And so yeah, it's just understanding that life is largely a battle between love and fear, and helping my clients call fear on its bluff and realize that it's actually a bunch of bullshit. And the more that you can, you know, surrender, not in the defeatist sense of the word, but in the sense of like going with the Tao, and you know, following your heart, paying attention to the synchronicities and the signs, and embracing like the miraculous nature of the game, like stuff just starts to fall in line. And the sooner that you can realize that and start living on it, like the sooner that you can reap everything that's like that's waiting for you, instead of reaching somewhere where you're like, fuck, what did I do with my life? That's kind of a, did that make any sense at all?
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
interacted. Yeah.
My dragon is really just, you know, I just feel like I kind of have to do this. Not a, I really can't think of anything else. I think I'd be doing this even if I won the lottery tomorrow, essentially, because it's something that I have to figure out for my, like that I'm just interested and passionate about for myself, that I have to continue getting better at myself, and passing on, I guess, to the people that I serve. Um, it really is just a reflection of the way that I see the world. And as I continue to work on this and further develop my own worldview and go on my own like adventures, and undertake my own lessons and stuff like that, like as
Mhm.
that gets refined, it really just, like it's a mirror image between like that and the coaching, and the mission. I don't know. Short answer is like I don't really know what else I would be doing. I like this just feels like it. I know that I just want to do something that serves people. My dragon is, I guess, it's almost like I don't even know how to articulate it, dude. You know, it's this just feels right, frankly. And it's proven to be the most edifying like experience that I've ever had, because it's forced me, like I've already learned so much about myself and about the world, and grown like more in, you know, a year or 2 years than I have like in the last who knows how many. And uh this really while I'm helping other people, I'm also like, this is also acting as an instrument for my own, like for me overcoming my own fears, you know what I mean? And overcoming like my own limiting beliefs, stepping into who I am. Um it really is trying to just kind of like kill all the birds with one stone for me. So
That's beautiful,
hopefully
man.
that was a satisfactory answer. I hope.
I'd rather have a thick ramble than a concise piece of plastic bullshit. And so, you know, I think it's beautiful.
Thank you.
So here's the dealio, man. I think that's great, dude. Dig who you are and what you're about. I think it's super fun. Um, I have a proposition for you, and I'll see how you land with it. Is we can wrap right now. Dig you, dude. I dig the fucking things you're about. I think it's cool. You're on a mission, right? And that's my big thing. Is I'm really fascinated with people on missions. I like it because I'm on my own missions and ways. I'm kind of like the um one, I advocate the voice for a lot of people that just get the stuff out there, and then two, it's like
Yeah.
I like to me, I you know, I have a studio, so I build a lot of like technology, so I kind of like I give Batman the bangerang, the bangerang and all that stuff, bangerang Rufio, but you know what I'm saying? So like,
Yeah.
so anyways, that's what I do, but I think it's what you do is cool, man. And I liked it, and I like the juice, I like where you're coming from. I will I'll see how long it takes for her to chop this up and get this up going and out the store. It's mostly audio. It'll go across all the typical places that you know and love. And I'll chop me and you talking about this thing off. So we don't have this
Yeah.
back and forth where people are like, oh, this is a weird, interesting side piece of everything. But
No, for sure.
but it'll hit all the channels and stuff. It'll be on the website and all that jazz. Yeah, dude, like you do good shit, dude. And I think you're in a good spot. And yeah, dude, it's cool, and I'll let you know as things come along. And then another point in time, I'd like to show you some tech that I think would help you on your journey. So
Absolutely.
yeah, dude, I think you're yeah. I was just like, fuck, man. By the way, I'm 41, so I'm a little bit older than you.
Mhm.
And I was like, and you're a learned motherfucker. Like I was like, he's 27. Like, geez, he pulled out some shit, gave me some homework to do. I was like, holy shit. I was like, this is pretty cool. So I've got my trans surfing in 70 days notes over here to the side.
Thank
I'm
you so
excited for
much.
that.
Yes, Transurfing in 78 Days. This is a wonderful book. I literally just, I just flip to a random page and trust
Yeah.
that it lands on whatever I needed.
You're an interesting dude. You're on a mission. I wanna support that where I can. And so one point is getting the word out about what you do. The point is I've got some interesting tech that I know will help you. So the point being, I'll give you the MP4 after this. Just keep doing
Yeah,
your shit, man. You're young. If you just keep your fire and you just keep fucking going on exactly what you're doing, and you just keep going harder into the paint, dude, you'll do great things, man. So I'm rooting for you, brother. I'm
that
rooting for
means
you.
a lot to me. Sincerely, thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
It's nice to, it's nice. It's nice because entrepreneurship sometimes, it's a lot of waiting and then boom, and then waiting, and so it really helps. Thank you.
Always. Of course,
Yeah.
brother. Of
And
course, man.
absolutely, bro. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it, man. Dude, take care, brother. Enjoy yourself and have a good night.
Thank you for listening to the Heroes of Reality podcast. Are you interested in using disruptive technology like ChatGPT AI and virtual reality to help your business to generate more revenue and create greater impact? If so, go to heroesofreality.com to take the Heroes Quiz to unlock your potential as a purpose-driven entrepreneur. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the other side.